The key to managing multiple JSON data requests with jQuery is to create a reference to each request. So let's kind of work backwards here. Here I'm using the $when method, or jQuery when, and the when method understands promises. It understands objects that represent an asynchronous value. So here I'm saying when request 1 and request 2 are done, I'm going to execute this callback function. In the callback function, all that we do is we wait a second, and then we change the CSS of these two boxes to green. This will all make sense in a second. So just keep in mind that we're saying that when these two requests are done, we're just going to make some CSS change here. So what do these two requests actually represent? Just look at the variables request 1 and request 2. Request 1 equals an AJAX request. And the AJAX request is going to fetch this URL, which we're going to circle back to in a second, and it has a success method. So when that request succeeds, we're going to put the JSON into the DOM. And request 2 is virtually identical. It's the same structurally, it just makes a different request. So the URL is different, but it also has a success function. And in that success function, we just put the data in the DOM. So let's look at those in action. I'm going to load the page, and we can see these two requests happening. One of them finishes, and then the other one finishes, and after they're both done, then we get the green boxes, and the green boxes happen down here. So what we're saying is when both of these requests are done, then we want to execute some code. So let's just also look very quickly at the actual URL of the request. So here is the URL of the first request, and it's not really important what it returns. It returns an array in JSON format, but the thing is that I've got this sleep parameter, so I'm just saying make this request take 3 seconds. Again, it's just some code to slow the request down to make it easier for us to understand what's happening here. And the second request is very similar. It's just some different JSON, but we're saying, hey, for this one, make the request take 5 seconds. So you can see that it takes 5 seconds here. And if I were to remove the sleep parameter, it just responds right away. So the bottom line is the first request should take about 3 seconds, the second request should take about 5 seconds, but what we're trying to mimic here is a situation where we make 2 JSON requests and we want to know when both are done. So when I refresh the page, you can see that we've got the AJAX spinners, and then one of them finishes and the other one finishes, and only when they're both done do I add the green border around the both boxes. So the bottom line is what we're demonstrating here is the ability to confidently determine when 2 asynchronous requests are done. Both of these variables, request 1 and request 2, return a promise. The $AJAX, or jQuery AJAX method, returns a promise. So the when method knows when 2 promises are done, and there could be 2, there could be 2,000 promises here. It doesn't matter. It knows, it understands how to pay attention to those asynchronous requests or those promise objects, and when they're both done, when they're both fulfilled, then it will execute a callback that you pass to the done method. And that way we're demonstrating that we know that the first request is done, the second request is done, and when that's the case, then we act upon it. In this case, we're just changing some CSS, but of course what you'll want to do in this case will probably be more substantial. But the key to reliably knowing when more than one JSON request is finished is to set variables that hold the asynchronous request or hold the promise, and then pass those one or more variables to the jQuery when method, chain the done method, and then pass it a function that you want to execute when all the requests have been successfully completed.